What's up, guys? This is Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla stock for the long term and then break down why different analysts have thousands of dollars for their price targets for where Tesla's going to go in the upcoming years, right? Some analysts think it could go as high as 1,200. Others are saying as high as, 3,000. But nonetheless, we do agree that Tesla will likely eventually reach the thousands per share in the upcoming years. I'm going to break down exactly why that is and then talk about different perspectives. Just know that I am not a financial planner. Take nothing I'm saying as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please check out my Moomoo link. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're going to get $20 of free NVIDIA stock. If you deposit $2,000, you're going to get $50 worth of the stock. Deposits $10,000 to get $300 worth, and deposit $50,000 to get $1,000 of free NVIDIA stock. You're also going to qualify for an 8.1% APY on uninvested cash, and the offer ends very soon, so check out my links down below. Anyways, as far as Tesla's going, why is Tesla going to be so bullish for the long term? Well, one thing I just want to say is that for the short term, Tesla is still kind of stagnant and stuck in this range. It hasn't really broken market structure, and we're still kind of stuck for now because a lot of short term catalysts are still affecting this. So that's something that's worth mentioning. Also, Tesla still has gaps over here at 259, at 238. There's gaps. There's even some gaps left in the 100s. I don't know if we're going to be dipping that much, but I do believe that if we do eventually come down, whether there's a recession coming or not, or a massive pullback in the markets, if Tesla does eventually return to these levels, I want to remind you all it's going to be a massive buying opportunity because of what's about to come for Tesla. When you look at analyst ratings, the majority of analysts are saying to hold on to your Tesla shares. It has 18 buy ratings, 15 hold ratings, and 9 sell ratings. Yes, some analysts are very, very concerned about the EV sales and things like that affecting Tesla. And I just see this as opportunity. Even if we do come down for the short term, I'm still very, very excited for the longer term. I think there's a very, very good chance there's so much to come because of what we're seeing thus far. Now, I want to talk about what Fallacy Alarm has been talking about. They have some important numbers to talk about when it comes to Tesla's hypothetical situations. In this article, they don't really account as much for the Optimus robot, but they do talk about other factors. So they've been talking a lot about what's going on and where they see Tesla in 2030 as we have this new assessment. So today, Tesla is a hardware business like they're talking about so far. And then a lot of people are just like worried about how much metal they end up shipping and such. But keep in mind that that's just a small part of Tesla as they start to expand their software and then they eventually incorporate the robotaxis. Now, there's a lot that's changing right now, such as how quick Tesla will get to eventually improving FSD and eventually becoming autonomous. Those are going to be different factors we don't truly know about. We don't know how long it's going to take, but that's going to be a game changer for the company once we officially get there. Now, right now, the two main things that are building revenue for Tesla and profits are their automotive sales and the energy storage hardware business. Those are the two main things right now. There are other opportunities in insurance and robotaxi and such that are coming up, but it's going to take some time for Tesla to get there, according to what this is talking about. So that's some important news. When it comes to automotive, Tesla is once again aspiring to hit tens of millions of vehicle sales by 2030, but this is only just one factor for them. Another thing is going to be a little bit different. This model right here, based on what we're seeing, is estimated it's going to be about 12 million sales per year by 2030. So things may slow down a bit, but they're going to be completely fine as they continue to expand. And then on top of this, whether that's true or not, autonomous driving is going to be another big factor for them. So we have some numbers right here about what the numbers could look like. This could actually improve the global fleet. We could go from having like, a few million to more and more millions and millions and millions, eventually the tens of millions as time goes on. And then on top of this, when we continue to dip right here, we're looking for like the prices, what's going to happen with the prices moving forward. Another factor is going to be Tesla's autonomy. Tesla's once again getting closer to being fully autonomous, but we don't know exactly when that's going to be. However, this model is saying that when Tesla really solves autonomy and deploys robotaxis, its valuation will likely increase by 10x or even 50x. But that's going to depend on like timing and factors like that. But they are talking about how that's going to be a very, very big factor for them. So how long is it going to take? They're saying that there's like a higher probability it's going to happen by later dates as we get closer to like the end of the decade according to this, but it could be sooner depending on how things go. Then you have insurance and factors like that they're also like talking about. So in return, as you're seeing, their energy storage business just continuing to expand. It's once again looking very, very strong. And I think this is great for the company to help expand and supply energy. Tesla's also applying to supply energy in the UK, so that's some great news. But based off what they're saying, they are estimating that the company is going to have a revenue of about $830 billion by 2030 and about $222 billion in gross profits. And these numbers, they believe, put the share price at about that the $1,200 price target. That's what they're predicting so far. Tesla's going to run to about $1,200. Now, there is a problem with these estimates, and that is the fact that they don't really go into the full details about how much the robotaxi is going to be expanded. And then what about Optimus, right? Optimus is going to be another major game changer for Tesla. So even without going into the full details of the robotaxi, just talking primarily about sales, we can see that Tesla should be running to about $1,200 per share by 2030, but that doesn't even account for everything. So that's like a bare minimum price target that could be coming, and the return on investment is going to greatly outperform the market. Now, Elon Musk recently said that one of the best models he's seen for Tesla's valuation is by ARK Invest. They are saying that by 2029, if Tesla solves autonomy by a particular date, we could be looking for a $2,600 price target for Tesla. I think that's very possible. Keep in mind that this does not necessarily account for the overall Optimus robot, at least entirely. The bearish case would be a $2,000 price target, and the bullish case is going to be 3,100. But their projections kind of in the middle, around 2,600. So this is what the expected value kind of like tells us, depending on autonomy. So it depends on if they could solve autonomy. So I believe Tesla will eventually solve autonomy, but the question is, how long is it going to take? Elon Musk mentioned they may solve autonomy during the second half of 2026 at the rate they're going, maybe even maybe a little bit later, because usually his dates are kind of early. What if it's 2027 or 2028? By then it's going to be a game changer, and like the headline said, the overall valuation could easily 10 or 50x. Now, to what extent will the robotaxi build in revenue? Well, it's going to be big, guys. We're going to make hundreds of billions from the robotaxi, if not trillions, as decades progress, because we're just getting started. The robotaxi is entering the autonomous driving technology business, and that is a multi-trillion-dollar business, and Tesla's leading the game right now. They're expanding in New York. They're getting started in New York. They're going to get started in Arizona and Nevada, and so far we're seeing them working in California and Texas. That is great news, at least so far. So from what we're seeing, based off the outputs, it's going to depend on their numbers. We could see it also depends on their sales, at least to some extent. We're hoping that they could sell, 5.8 plus million cars annually, and then eventually the bull case would be that's the bear case, right? The bull case is going to be around like 14.4 million, very close to what the previous estimations were kind of like suggesting. So ARK is assuming that if, it depends on when we end up solving autonomy, right? Right here, you can see this is the first year of robotaxi commercialization. We're starting right now, but it hasn't been fully commercialized in a way where it's, to the full extent it's going to be reaching. So there's a 58% chance it reaches that full, the full potential in 2025, and then there's a bigger chance we basically do it within the next 3 years. Actually, 2025 is halfway over, so that's like within like 2.5 years we should be seeing the robotaxi expanding a lot. There's a 38% chance we see the full expansion in 2026, then eventually 2027. I believe by next year it's going to be a lot bigger. We're going to see them basically all over Texas, all over California, all over New York. And then, we're going to see our full potential very, very soon as they begin to expand. So I think next year the robotaxi is going to be really, really big, but they're going to need drivers there to monitor the situation. However, despite that, what's going to be even bigger is that with the autonomous models they've ran at, they're completely just surpassing their counterparts, and I think that gives them a big advantage overall. Also, this is based off 2023 data, how safe they are. It's even getting safer as time goes on. So very, very great. They could drive so much without accidents. I think it's very awesome. So ARK is basically concluding that if they solve autonomy within the next year or two, we could easily see the share price run to the thousands. This does not account for autonomous, with their targets around $2,600 per share by 2029. Of course, this falls under the assumption that they end up solving autonomy by the next 1 to 2 years. It may take them longer, so we'll see. But overall, because they're already starting to expand the robotaxi, I think that the revenue that's going to come is going to surpass the hundreds of billions and eventually the trillions. So, in my opinion, I think it makes sense to kind of go in the middle. by the 2029 to 2030 area, I think that $1,200 is kind of like conservative if they do solve autonomy in the next couple of years. And then 2,600 is possible. I would say 2,300 is like the more bullish case that they have. So somewhere in the middle puts us around that $2,000 price target for Tesla. So I think it's very, very realistic to think that the share price could run to $2,000 by the end of this decade. That is still an absolutely insane return because of autonomy. And then, you also have to account for like the Robotaxi and such. So there's a saying that goes, right? If you expect disappointment, you're never going to be disappointed. And in this case, if we just expect the bare minimum, if we just think that maybe Tesla solves autonomy by like 2028, 2029, we give a late estimate. And then we assume that like the robotaxi takes time to expand. We assume that the autonomous robot takes a while. We could even assume that the share price only runs to like $1,500 to $2,000 by the end of the decade. That would still be an absolutely insane return on investment if Tesla does eventually come down to fill these gaps and we start buying more in the 200s, or if we buy in the lower 300s. If we start buying in the lower 300s or 200s, that's going to be absolutely insane because we could easily, 6, 7x our money in just a couple of years. You could even 10x your money if it runs that much. So even with the conservative estimates, it's still going to be an absolutely insane return on investment for the longer term, given what we're seeing at least thus far. For the short term, we'll see how it goes, but that's what I'm seeing at least thus far for Tesla, and I still remain very, very bullish. Now, there are recessionary fears. There's fears about semiconductors being affected and whatever the factors are. But when you look at Tesla, it does look like we're forming like a giant cup and handle like structure. So for many, many years out, okay, if Tesla kind of like continues to consolidate like this, and then we eventually come down to fill gaps in like the 230s, maybe we see a recession, whatever the factors are. If we do see another pullback move, if this happens, I'm not saying it will happen. If it happens, it's nothing but a buying opportunity because as years progress, this is going to start to run and run and run. And there's going to be a lot of periods where this eventually squeezes. And then as we approach, the end of the decade, 2028, 2029, we could really start to see this scale as we get past the recessionary phase and Tesla really starts to get past the overall, the transitional phase. Elon Musk made it very clear that Tesla is in a transitionary phase and that there's going to be it needs some time to really hit the full growth potential, right? Once you solve autonomy, once you get past these like bigger estimates, when we approach the end of the decade, I would not be surprised if he hits many thousands per share. I really believe we could be squeezing like crazies, which is why it's a very, very good idea to start buying those shares in the 200s, in the even the 300s. I would recommend just dollar cost averaging on dips. So if we dip to 300, it's a buying opportunity. If we go down to 280, I'd buy a bit more. 230, buy more. Right, have cash on the sidelines and slowly dollar cost average because for the long term, the return on investment is going to be astronomical. Right, we're going to make insane money off Tesla, especially during the growth phase. And I want to just let you guys know this is a very conservative estimate, right? It's possible we run to like 3,000 a share by the end of the decade. We could be going to like 3,500 a share, right? If it all depends on how much revenue we build from Robotaxi, what happens with the Optimus robot. There's so many paths for insane revenue in the trillions for Tesla. So I'm still very, very bullish on Tesla stock for the long term. But I like to be more conservative. I like to just assume it's only going to run to like 1,200, 1,500 by the end of the decade. I know that sounds very conservative. When you expect something conservative, you're going to be awarded because the return is going to be even bigger and we're going to make even bigger returns, in my personal opinion. So, what do I think about Tesla? Here's my view. I know for the short term, I oftentimes talk about how Tesla could have some downside. Tesla's trading sideways. I know we always talk about that because those are some short term projections. But for the long term, once we get past the EV sales slowdown, once we get past the recession that could be coming, once we get past the economic hardships, the inflationary phase, the high interest rates, when all of that clears up, guys, the growth phase is coming. Optimus is going to help them build billions and trillions in revenue. The Robotaxi is going to help them build billions and trillions as well. Optimus is going to be a big game changer because Elon Musk is saying that the Optimus robots could cost $20,000. Companies will eventually hire them to start working. It's going to be massive. And I think it's going to be a big game changer for the long term. I don't know exactly what the dates will be because we know what happened during Tesla's earnings report. There was a lot of like hardships Tesla's dealing with. But for the longer term, we're talking 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years out. There's going to be so much upside coming from all these projects. I guarantee it, guys. There's so much to come. I'm very, very optimistic about the long term, and I can't wait to see what Tesla's going to do for us. So I like to just assume it runs to just like, 1,500 to 2,000 only by the end of the decade. That's just like a more conservative estimate. That way, you guys are like not disappointed in case it comes just a little short. If things don't always go as planned, sometimes dates take longer than what Tesla expects, such as autonomy. It could take longer than just like 1 year to solve. But when we solve it, guys, the growth is going to be worth it. And I'm willing to hold my Tesla shares for decades because the return on investment is going to be insane. So could Tesla squeeze to $3,000, $4,000 per share? Yes, it can by the end of the decade, but it depends on so many unknown variables, and we're going to wait and see how it goes. And I like to assume, once again, the more conservative targets. That way we are ready for what's about to come. So I just want to remind you all, be very, very open minded. If the US enters a recession next year, whatever hardships come, and if Tesla does eventually, consolidate or even come down to fill some gaps, I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to start buying these shares because for the long term, it's going to be worth it. Even on the weekly time frame, you guys can see that we're just kind of flat right now. But a lot of buyers are continuing to defend, and there is a giant cup and handle forming. This cup and handle could allow us to dip all the way down to like 250 again, and we could still bounce like crazy. So anything under $300 makes me want to just dollar cost average down. And then once again, we're going to be buying this up like crazy. They're going to continue to scare people into thinking that Tesla's going to tank, Tesla's this and that, Tesla's going to fail. It's all just fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because for the long term, we're going to be completely fine with what Tesla's developing, what Tesla's about to achieve. All right. So my view of Tesla is the same. I'm a massive bull for the long term. For the short term, I know we may consolidate. We could even see some downside if the US does enter like a recession, but it's going to be okay, guys. The long term is very, very bright and bullish. Once again, keep that in mind. Thank you all so much for listening. I want to give you guys an update on this. We'll see how long it takes Tesla to solve autonomy, and once they do, it's going to be insane. Elon Musk said that the shorts are going to be obliterated once that happens, so keep that in mind. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a good one. Enjoy your weekend, and peace out.